Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?
Well, hi again, everybody. This is Rob Godlewski with the Think Small podcast. And today our guest is Mark Miller. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Merritt Clubs. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Rob, thanks for having me.
Well, Mark, tell us about Merritt Clubs and what you do and what do you do for your clients and customers?
Okay, yeah. So we're a local operational business in Baltimore, Maryland. We have 8 clubs, and then we manage several outdoor fitness and aquatic centers. We do some consulting and all that. And so we've been around since 1977, coming up on our 50th anniversary. So we always like to think
Outstanding.
that's pretty good in this industry. Um,
Absolutely.
And, we kind of see ourselves more as a lifestyle center than a traditional gym or fitness club because, nowadays it's so important of people's health, just whether it's mental health, well-being, it could be fitness, it could be, just coming in for, you know, getting over loneliness, right? Connections with people, community, and things like that. And so we always want to be part of someone's life. And we feel that that's the important aspect of what we deliver to our people.
Yeah, so in our first conversation, I learned a lot about Merit Clubs and what differentiates you from just the normal gym, right?
Right.
You mentioned that sense of community. So dig a little deeper into that. Tell us how you are really differentiated from your basic health club.
So we like to think that we come from purpose first and not any policies, right? I mean, obviously, every business has policies and systems and structures, but for us, it's really about doing the right thing for our people, whether it's our team members or whether it's our community. And we kind of live by the mantra that we want to be the best part of our members' day every day. And it's interesting because we define members as not just the members of the club, but our team members as well. Like we have to be the best part of each other's day. And we also
Hmm.
want to be the best part of our community's day. And so there's always a member and a connection somewhere. And if you can stop and make, a difference in someone's life, then that really impacts it. So, it's getting out, it's getting to know our members, it's getting out to be part of our communities. I mean, we do a lot of charity events, but we've really shifted our focus that we do local community charities, right? Things that hit home that are in our neighborhoods that deal with our members, our communities and all that. When it comes to team members, we have to be aware of how each of them are acting and like if there's something going on in their personal lives. And so, for years we've always said, we don't believe in that philosophy of work-life balance. We believe in work-life integration. And what I
Hmm.
mean by that is everything's integrated, right? So we want our staff, like if you have to get to, a kid's baseball game, softball game, dance recital, whatever it may be, then you need to be there. Like we don't want you to miss out on those moments in life because that's what matters. And when you do that for your people, they feel like they belong and that creates that community.
That's a really different way of looking at things, but a very holistic way. And also you have kind of outreach to the community as well, and do a lot of things outside venues and outside locations. So tell us more about that. Engaging with your looks like my connection's a little unstable. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Let me rephrase the question. So it also appears that you're doing a lot of things, in the community and with outside locations. Tell us more a little bit about that, right? Because you're not simply dealing with your clients and customers inside your physical locations, correct?
Right. So, we have a couple different avenues. So one is we have our consulting arm, our management arm, where, we manage, especially in the summertime, right? We have 4 outdoor pool venues and they could be community centers, right? Where a neighborhood has a pool and it's a full service pool. And they want someone to come in and manage it, provide training for all their lifeguards, hiring,
Hmm.
development, and actually running it the way we would run it. So we want to treat their members like they're members of Merit. And so everything we do kind of has the same philosophy, right? It's whether we go into a community or we're in our clubs, it's how do you create a memorable moment for that individual, right? How do you become the best part of their day? Because they're not coming to that pool to have to stress. They're coming to the pool so they can enjoy their family. And then we provide things in the community where we work with like the local parks and recs, and we'll provide like sunshine yoga or sunrise yoga We'll do. We have a Girls That Walk community group that we allow to use our clubs because they're such an impactful group. We try to go out to all the local venues, farmers markets, races, and all that. And if we can provide, the warm ups and things like that, that provides us being out and about in our communities.
Oh, that's outstanding, and truly differentiated from your traditional, come inside and spend 45 minutes on a machine approach.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit, Mark. Let's talk about, not only your journey into this leadership role, but the journey of Merritt Clubs, through its history. I'm sure that there's been a time when, club membership saw a decline or contraction of membership. Obviously, COVID is one of those times, but you've been in business for almost 50 years. Clearly, there's been other times like that.
Right.
Tell us about how you've navigated or how the business has navigated through those challenging times, not only from an operational business perspective, but from the employee side as well.
Yeah. So you're right. We started off back in 1977 as racquetball. And, at one point we had the largest racquetball center on the East Coast. And, racquetball back in its heyday was very social, right? People would come to the clubs, they would hang out, they would grab a beer, they would smoke, all that fun stuff, right? And then obviously fitness evolved over the years to where, you started to put in cardio centers, strength training centers, and kid zones and all that, right? And then aquatic centers. And then, COVID hit, right? We lost a lot of members. And then we came out of COVID and, clubs evolved even more, right? Because people figured out that they could do cardio outside. So now strength training became very big. And we started to get into like the recovery aspects. And people started really taking this wellness for life type of approach. And, they started looking at their sleep habits. Everyone has a wearable. They started looking at their nutrition, right? And so all these things started the things. And so over the time, we've had the ebbs and flows of membership. We've had to adapt and adjust our approach. And one of the things that we always like to do is we're always thinking more into the future, right? And Jeff Bezos has a great question. And he's like, rather than tell me what's not going to be here, like what is going to stay, right? And that becomes kind of the anchor. So we know that strength training is an important part of people's life, right? We know that cardio will have its place, right? It may not always be treadmills or bikes and ellipticals, but there's always going to be some place for it, right? And so for us, it's like, what do we build our clubs on that we can handle, right? We are in the evolution today of AI, and a lot of organizations are using AI technology for things. And we know that we're in a service industry, right? So people are important. So we've always said to everyone, and I've been blessed to have these fantastic owners that don't see gyms as gyms. They see it as, what can we learn from the best out there, right? How do we become the best business? And, so we look at things like, service is going to be an important thing. Human connection is going to be an important thing. So how do we find and develop the right people? And so our philosophy has always been, over the years, as our clubs adapt, right? How does our staff adapt? How do we train them? How do we develop them? How do we make them better, not just employees, but better people, right? So we've had a leadership academy for about 15 years now. We do a lot of, we call them 401s, but we teach our employees basic things like how to buy your first house, how to change the oil in your car, how to budget, how to communicate better. And we utilize our staff to teach these skills. And, we want people to become better people and not just better employees. So it's not just about teaching them how to sell. It's about teaching them how to communicate better. How do you think better? How do we look to develop the emotional intelligence at our employees? And for us, we've always want our employees to be here for life. So we train them to be here for life. Like, I'm blessed. I've been here for 25 years. A lot of my manager and senior management team have been here for 15 plus years. And, so we're blessed in that regard. And I think that's really due to the culture and what our owners and the vision that, whether I have or they have for where we're trying to go and develop.
Mark, that's an incredible story and message, and providing so many ancillary benefits that really aren't related to running a health club is so vital. And I bet you that is keeping your turnover, your employee turnover rate down considerably. As you mentioned, you have 15-year, people on your management. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. We're very blessed.
Yeah, and the idea of trying to see the future and project what is coming around the corner relative to, living a healthy lifestyle, I'm sure that really helps people pull out, pull themselves out of a downturn in an economic environment, right? If
Right.
I've got something to look forward to, I'm going to stick around.
Right. And it also,
That's
I think
that's
it
that's
takes the stress off people, right? Because you're looking into the future and you're trying to be prepared before it becomes too late. So you're trying to be proactive rather than reactive. And what we find is a lot of times when people are reactive,
that's
that's when the stress comes. So like even in our daily
sure.
operations, we're always talking 45 to 90 days in the future.
Hmm. Well, it's clearly worked for you. So, how many locations do you have now, and what's your short term plan for say within the next year? How many locations are you looking for?
Yeah, so we have eight owned locations, and then we have four managed sites. And then what we're really looking to do is we're in the process right now of looking for another site because we'd like
Okay.
to get up to nine. We'd like to have 10. Because for us, growth is not only about the aspect of sharing and creating a product for our communities and all that, but it's also creating a pathway for our employees because we want more of our employees to have growth opportunities. And in order to do that, when you have employees that have been here a long time, we have to have other opportunities. So we're really trying to develop our pipeline for the future so that as we add more clubs, more of our internal staff can continue to grow up. And one of our goals is 70% of all hires will come from inside.
Oh, that's outstanding. And again, your growth seems to have a focus on not just expansion and revenue growth with customers, but growth opportunities for your employees, and that's admirable.
Yeah.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I'm sure there's been times when the business has seen rapid expansion, right, and high
Yeah.
revenue growth. And as we all know, as business leaders, rapid expansion brings a whole different set of challenges onto a business, that are very different from when those times of contraction roll around. So tell us about a time when that happened to the business, and well, hopefully it's right now. But tell us about
Yeah.
how you're navigating the business through that.
So back in 2003, we had an opportunity to open up three clubs simultaneously. And so we actually opened them up about 2 weeks apart.
Oh
And
wow.
that was the most stressful and nerve wracking time. And it really was kind of the catalyst for what we're doing today. Because
Hmm.
when we opened that, we basically had to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? We were bringing good staff from here to this club to try and get it
Oh,
operational. But we were really stretching a lot of our high end executives, regionals. You know, they were in the trenches like for nonstop for 18 months, 19 months between construction meetings and trying to train and develop staff and hire and all that. And what it really taught us was, when you want to be building for the future, you have to have kind of not only the system and the structure in place, but you got to kind of have the pathway, right? And so for us, that's when we started the Leadership Academy, right? We started saying, look, we got to really have a career path. And so we started a 101, 201, 301, 401 kind of evolution of training to be developing people. We started to give all of our employees individual development plans so that we knew where they wanted to grow. And then we started to really look at like, okay, so if we're going to build or when we build another club, here's kind of the framework. And then we tweak it based on the community and the needs of the area that we're going to be in. But these are the basics rather than trying to always take a blank slate and recreate it. We got smart. And then, we really have always been thinking about, okay, like even right now, as we're looking for another club, the conversations we're having with our teams are, in order to go to another club, we have to have people that are ready to step up into our current opportunities. And
that's
so,
right.
who are you building? And we really had to work through those egos and those fears. And so, we started to systematize everything. And, now we have kind of open book sharing. And, we have kind of like, let's take personal training as an example. We have an entire structure of personal training that you could come in tomorrow. I could show you the structure and you could start running my clubs because the structure's there. Now you got to put the art to it, right? The science is there, but now the art is how do you coach? How do you develop? How do you lead? Stuff like that. Those are more of the soft skills that we have to teach and develop.
Sure. So that period of expansion literally kind of forced you to create a leadership program.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it was necessity is the mother of invention, as they say,
That's a
and
great saying.
I think that was a fortuitous turn of events. Clearly, that was successful in two ways. You opened three clubs within 2 weeks. I'm assuming those clubs are still open and running.
Two of the three. One of them we did close
Okay.
due to a restructuring with our landlord at the time. But
Oh, okay. That
no,
happens.
it was a result of coming out of COVID, so we needed to restructure.
Sure,
We just couldn't come to
sure.
a solution.
But that management program that you've created is the what drives the stickiness of your employee base and reduces that turnover. That's outstanding.
Yeah. And we
Um,
keep evolving and improving it because as we're learning, back then we were dealing with one or two generations. Today we're dealing with four generations, right? And it's how do you
Very
teach a
true.
25-year-old leader to manage a 54-year-old employee, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how do you
Mm-hmm.
communicate? How do they learn? How do they develop? And so, we're constantly looking at how we can take things and improve it. And, that's one of the key things for us is always looking at how do we get better. It's one of our bookends. We call it Kaizen. But it's basically how do you improve? How do you constantly improve and make something better and more valuable for our employees and for our members?
Interesting. So, do you offer some generational training
We
at
talk about
all?
that in our meetings. We talk about what it's like, and we kind of have an alumni group of people that have graduated our leadership academy, and in there we have those conversations, and we talk about like what are the different personalities, and how do you understand the personality types of each person, and how do you
Mm-hmm.
lead that personality type? How do you lead that demographic? How do they communicate? How do they see value? What's the learning curve? Things like that. So it's a lot of it's just you got to have conversations with people and you got to get out there and know your employees.
Yeah, and having the knowledge and understanding of what drives a certain generation is key to getting them to engage and having a successful leadership slash employee relationship. So
Yeah.
I think that's outstanding.
And the neat thing for us is that's exactly what we see in our clubs, right? I mean, we have 16, 17-year-old kids coming in and we have 100-year-old members walking on a treadmill or swimming in our pools.
Right. And you've got to communicate to all of them, don't you?
Yeah.
And you have to communicate in a way that they're accustomed to taking in their information.
Right.
Right. So let's talk about the future a little bit, Mark. What does the next 3 to 5 year planning cycle look like for you, and what does your growth look like?
Yeah. So great question. We're in the process of really trying to solidify that right now, but we're looking at it from a couple approaches. One is in our 8 existing clubs, what does our capital needs look like? And what are the areas that we
Mhm.
need to advance for the club of the future, right? We're constantly looking at, what's the health club industry going to look like 3 to 5 years from now? And so is
Mhm.
there areas of construction we need to do? Is there areas of new equipment? Are there new services that we need to bring in? Are there new opportunities? How does technology start to integrate its way into health clubs and how do we start to use that, not only for our employees' benefit, but also for our members? And then we start to look at like new locations, right? Is there an opportunity for us to add value and bring our product to a different community? And if so, what does that look like? We're pretty sure we have the model that we think is the model that is the model we want everywhere. And so we're pretty selective in where we go. And it's making sure that, A, it can bring value to the area, B, that it's a good fit for us as an organization. And then C, how do we make it work so that our employees can, grow and help us create something beneficial for the future. And then it's really looking at our management side of things and looking at how can we start to help other clubs because we feel that the message and how we're delivering our product is something that all businesses can benefit from. So it's not just fitness, right? If we could go in and help an organization improve their culture and their onboarding and their development of their employees, then we're starting to expand our reach and how we, operate as an organization. Again, we're not just a health club. We're a driver of people and we're in the people business. And so if we can help organizations make their people better, then we're winning.
So I would imagine that physical location expansion is the barriers to entry there for your type of business is relatively high. I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital needs, capital expenditures for new equipment and new physical build out.
Yeah.
I can imagine that's not that easy. So, yeah, how do you balance the capital needs versus the human needs in your expansion plans?
Yeah. So our model is unique because our ownership group, we want to buy the land so that we own it rather than dealing with a different landlord, because then that gives us the flexibility of taking care of what we need to take care of versus sometimes having to deal with another landlord that may not be as comfortable with some things. An example being, if we have a club that we feel we need to have a little extra security, we're not going to even blink. We're just going to hire security and we're patrol it, and we're not going to worry about payroll. Whereas sometimes when you talk to a landlord, they're like, well, the rest of the shopping center is fine. And we're like, okay, but we want better lighting, we want better visibility. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to spend the money on that. And so for us, it
Right.
really starts with finding the land and then buying it and then building the building and then putting the talent in the building to take care of the members. And so, we do a lot of demographic analysis and things like that. But, when we look at the financial aspect, we look at the operating side of our 8 existing clubs, and we look at how do we fund the current capital needs out of that operating budget. And then anything new really becomes an investment from our owners. And then it's a pro forma with regards to how do we give them the return that they need at the same time getting the return the clubs need, and then at the same time servicing our communities and our employees. And so we kind of call it playing chess, not checkers, right? Sometimes it's simple. Like if we went into a place and we just didn't have to worry about buying the land and we didn't have to worry about certain things, and we could just put a box in, like a vanilla box, it might be easier. But, we don't want to do that. So, for us, it's kind of like, okay, strategically, what makes sense? And like
Hmm.
in our Baltimore area, most of our clubs are within a 12 to 18-minute drive time. So there's a lot of crossover and there's a lot of usage, meaning like if you're at our downtown location, you want to go to Canton, it's 4 miles away. So you drive there in 10 minutes, but you get the outdoor pool, where at our downtown club, you have a beautiful basketball court. So it's almost like, how do we create little communities within communities?
Okay. And do you see that? Do some of your members like switch locations based on their daily need?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's surprising. Some of our clubs, there's about a 40% crossover effect from other clubs using their club.
Oh,
We were
wow, that
very
seems high.
surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So right now, your 8 clubs are in the general Baltimore, Washington area, correct?
Yep.
What does geographic expansion look like for you?
So our ownership group owns land in Florida, North Carolina, Virginia. So we do have a couple opportunities for some other geographic locations, and it's a matter of, looking at each of those markets and trying to figure out what fits our model, because we're not the cheap model, right? We're a high-end model. Our philosophy has always been, we want people to use their membership. We don't want them to buy memberships. We actually want them in the club, so we track them. We try to use it. Like one of our KPIs is not so much the revenue, it's more of how many of our people are using the club on a regular basis, unique users.
Mm,
Because if people use it, they see value. If they see value, they stay. If they stay, they're going to get results, right? And so for us, it's making sure that there's, the right median household income, that there's the right saturation in the market, that we're going to pull the numbers we need to be able to provide a good product. Because you don't want to put a product there and not have it good. Like for us, our reputation is our brand, and we want people to know that when we come in there, we're coming in there to serve them and take care of them.
so you mentioned a KPI you track, and first of all, I'm thrilled that you're actually using KPIs to measure your business, right? I think every
Right.
business needs to do that. But you're also you've identified a KPI that you're measuring that's probably not normal for a health or fitness business to be using, and you're tracking almost more like a Netflix or a streaming service active monthly users,
Yeah.
and truly that does drive more engagement and gives you the opportunity to upsell services to them if that time is right and if you need to. How important is KPI measurement and management in your business?
So we use KPIs in basically every department. Now we don't overboard, but a lot of our KPIs are based on. So we have a company KPI we call it our super, right? And it's everybody in the organization helps contribute to our net members, right? So it's not so much about sales, it's about keeping the people you have. And so if
Right.
we keep the people we have, we win the game, right? If we keep them longer. So we also measure kind of their life cycle. But then each department has something. And it's like you said, the KPI is more a leading indicator, right? Something that is going to show us what the future is going to be like versus a lagging indicator, right? You know,
Correct.
the number of sales don't mean anything if people aren't using the club because they're just going to cancel, right? So we want to know that people are using the club so that way we can say, okay, that's good. How do we get them to use it more often, right? How do we create little member events that make them want to come to the club rather than they have to go, right? And so it starts to figure out how do we become part of their lifestyle. And we do the same thing with like our personal training. We do the same thing like in sales. We don't really track sales. We track the number of appointments that show because, you know, if they don't show, you could set all the appointments in the world, but if they don't actually walk through the door, you don't get a sale, right? So it's more of that behavioral based KPI, things that we can drive, coach, develop, and influence.
That's awesome, and I love your focus on looking at leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. Obviously, some lagging indicators make a lot of sense, but
Correct.
focus on what's going to drive your revenue in the future. Um, oh, I'd lost my train of thought. Um, but yeah, overall KPI management and measurement is key for any business. And another one I think you probably pay a lot of attention to is the lifetime value of that customer,
Yeah, we
right?
call it the customer life cycle. Yep. We
There you go.
understand. Well, we look at two things, right? We look at how much does it cost us to acquire a member, and then how much
Sure.
does it cost us to keep a member? And then what is that lifetime value, right? Because if we can move that lifetime value, let's say it's 26 months. If we can move it to 30 months for every membership, it's huge, huge profitability, right?
Right,
And
right.
so then the conversation becomes, okay, what does that? How do we do that? How do we influence that? Right. And those are what our meetings should be focused on is the behaviors and the actions that make that impact. And then the numbers show it. And I'm sure like every other business out there, you know, we're very open. Like we don't hide any of our numbers. Our employees,
Good.
we believe in transparency. Our philosophy is if you can't say it out loud so that everyone can hear it, you shouldn't be saying it. And so for us, we want everyone to see the scoreboard at any given time and know
Mhm.
where they stand and say, oh, hold on a second. I think I can influence that by doing this.
And I know that there's a lot of business owners and business leaders probably in our podcast audience that have a little bit of a concern about that type of philosophy about running a business. But I agree with you, Mark. The more transparency you can build into your business for all employees, um, down to sales, margin, net profitability, you're going to get that much more buy-in and stickiness with employees.
Yeah,
So I applaud you for that.
Rob, I think one of the key things for all business owners, and you know, this is a challenge to the point you just said, but trust is the foundation of every relationship. And
Of
trust
course.
for us is one of our core values as well. And so, you know, years ago, when we first started our leadership academy, we started this thing like freedoms and obligations. And one of our freedoms is any employee in the company can give away a free year membership, up to a free year, if they feel that that's what's deemed necessary, right? Their obligation is to do it within our purpose and our values. And so we've been doing that now for about 14 years, and we have yet to give away a free year membership. We might have given away a couple PT sessions, a free month, but never a free year. Because when you trust your employees and you teach them what the right things to do,
Yeah.
they do it, right? And that trust, I think, is also what builds that community and that longevity because employees feel like if you're trusted with things, that's the organization.
And it sounds like you're developing a group of not just employees, but loyal advocates.
Yeah.
And that is an incredibly efficient and it's just a better way to run a business in my idea.
Thank you.
Another thing I wanted to ask you was, you're keeping track of that lifetime value and the stickiness of customers that maybe aren't coming into your locations or aren't using your services. At what point do you have an outreach program for people who are lagging, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So it's not as good as we'd like it to be. And, in the past in the health club industry, it was always one of those things where people were like, don't wake the sleeping dogs, right? Because the minute you wake them, they go, I just want to cancel. We started to shift that about 2 years ago, where we started to go, you know what? We don't deserve someone's money if they're not using our club. And so let's wake the sleeping dogs, because that's a story we're making up in our own heads. We don't know that to be true until we actually talk to them, because sometimes life changes, right? And so we started waking up sleeping dogs to talk to them, and it was surprisingly not as bad as we thought it was going to be. But what we started to realize was we needed to become better. And so we're constantly looking at, like, how do we do it better than it is today? And so, we call them rifle shots, little experiments that we could try. But, we have some clubs that are really good at, if someone misses 10 days, they make a phone call, right? We have other clubs that they'll take their low users in the last 30 days and hand it to all their trainers and say, here, call these people and let's give them a free session. But we haven't really found, and we're starting to look at, like, is there a new CRM system? Is there technology out there that can help us alert it faster? Because what we're finding in our industry is it's not so much when they stop using it, that's when it's too late. It's when their behavior changes. So if they've been coming in regularly 4 times a month and now all of a sudden they're coming in twice a month, we have to intercept them at that point. And so we need to figure out, how does technology help us with that, so that we can get better at catching them early before it becomes too late.
I almost hate to tell you this, Mark, but here in where I live in St. Louis, I was a member of a local gym during COVID, and obviously during COVID, I didn't go to the gym. Well, I kept my membership mistakenly after COVID for probably too long, and I'm embarrassed to say it was a number of years that I kept my membership up and never went back to the gym, and I didn't receive a single phone call from that club asking about me, right? And wanting to know, why wasn't I coming back? Was there something, and I think I would have really engaged more with that club if that did happen, and it never happened.
Yeah.
So
and that's
whenever Merritt Clubs wants to expand to St. Louis, Missouri, I will welcome you with open arms.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet. Well, Mark, this has been a really great conversation. I can clearly see where you're differentiated in the marketplace. You're driving a business that not only wants to have raving lunatics as customers, but and I say that in a good way, of course.
Yeah, no.
But completely loyal and sticky employees that you're driving to more leadership roles. What a great way to run a business, Mark.
Well, thank you.
Is there any, last piece of advice you can give our audience, who are, business owners and leaders themselves of small to mid-sized businesses, that helped you along your way?
Yeah, so I've been blessed with a lot of different mentors over the years, and I've read a lot of different things. And I think the one thing that, and I remember, I think the guy who runs Microsoft, can't think of his name right now, but he said, we want to be a learn it all organization versus a know it all. And I think that's the thing that kind of helped me, was I put that ego aside and I said, look, I realize how incompetent I am every day, because the world is changing so rapidly. And so I need to learn, and I need to humble myself. And so I go into meetings, and, you hire really good people and you let them do what they're supposed to do. And sometimes you sit on the sidelines of that and say, wow, that's pretty amazing. And I remember when I first moved into my role, my one owner said to me, he goes, if you need to know everything that's going on in the company, then I don't need you. He goes, I need you helping grow and develop our company, and not worried about all the little itty bitty things that your staff can handle. Trust in them, and let's go.
Amen. And I've had a number of different employers in my career.
Yeah.
And it's those times when I wasn't the smartest person in the room that I felt the best in wanting to be a part of that business and wanting to grow it and wanting to lead in it.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. Hire good people, get out of their way.
Well, Rob, my simple thing is, so I belong to a roundtable group. I run a roundtable group, and we just had our national conference. And one of the things I always laugh at is, when everyone goes away to a conference or even on vacation, they're suddenly checking in with their work. And I'm like, you're in California, our business is in Maryland. Like, what could you do from there? And so over the years, I've just learned that, you know what? I don't ever check in. I don't ever call back. I don't ever ask how the clubs are doing. I figure if there's a problem that needs my assistance, they'll reach out to me. If
They'll
not,
call you.
when I get back, we're going to use it as a learning opportunity. And that's how you get better, right? You have to make mistakes and learn along the way. And guess what? There's no stress on me, and I can actually enjoy my conference, my vacation, and all that. And we do the same thing with our staff. We say, look, you're not allowed to call back. Don't check on anybody. That's how we learn.
That's amazing and such great advice, Mark. Thank you so much for your time today. Again, our guest has been Mark Miller, the Chief Operating Officer of Merritt Clubs, a health and wellness and fitness business in the Baltimore, Washington area. Mark, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?